Hey.
Hello?
Hey,
Can
how
you
you
hear
doing,
me?
Shangy?
Good, how are you?
Good. Yeah, you come through loud and clear.
Yeah,
Um,
that's cool.
awesome, mate. Glad to see you you typed out a nice lovely little list of a couple things to work on. So Zerg vs Terran going to be the focus. Before we get into that, I just
Uh-huh.
wanted to take a quick read through. I remember we were talking about kind of trying to play Hydra-bane against Terran, against BattleMech. What do you feel has been the most common thing on ladder lately? Has it been bio? Has it been mech? Has it been BC battle mech? Has it been lots of tanks? Or is it just a complete mix? Like, have you been encountering a really tight meta or a little bit of everything?
A little bit of everything. Yeah, so the latter games I play, for this, I faced bio, I faced like mech, and in mech I faced like heavy air style, like mass BCs, I faced mass Thors, um, battle mechs to BCs and stuff. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
The
so
whole
since you,
range. It
yeah, the
doesn't
whole
make it easy
range.
for you, does it?
Yeah, but I still use the same solution, like
Mm-hmm.
Hydra Ling Bane, that attack from two angles. But so since last time you coached me, I tried to attack from two angles, and I think after a few games I could get a decent Hydra Ling Bane army, and I can sometimes win the fight, but I lost the objective after, let's say I won the fight, but I don't have enough units to take down the Terran's fort if it's a PF. And then later I thought maybe when I attack I should switch to Hive Tech, so I switched to Ultras if Terran is going Bio. So then that won me a few games.
Mm-hmm.
But if Terran is going Mech, I switch to Brute Lords, and I barely win with Brute Lords because I don't know. It feels like I get the Brute Lords out, and they just make some Thors or Vikings, and they just kill all of my Brute Lords, and I just lose the game.
Well, let's get straight into some replays, man. Let's try and make the best use of our time. So this sounds like a really good overview you're giving me of kind of what's happened, but let's yeah, grab some replays and throw that up, and we can kind of look at this on screen while we talk about it because there's always so many little details. So just make me the lobby host, and I will drive this replay away. And okay, here we go. Cool. So all right, so we've been going to Hive Tech sometimes. I really do feel like Hydra-bane can go for a very, very long period of time.
I never won a game without Hive Tech since you coached me. I think
yeah.
I won fights, but I never won the whole game. I think either something went wrong with me, or my, like, I don't know. Maybe I didn't make enough units or stuff.
Who knows? Maybe the Terrans are really good at walling off and building lots of tanks and getting lots of defenses and stuff. If a Terran's good enough at defending, it is. Hydra-bane's a very good defensive composition. It's not so good for finishing the game. So definitely, I mean, technically, Hive Tech is the correct next step. But I know looking at this that the Hydra-bane, it's a training exercise, right? It's like, let's try and focus on that. It's like, even though it's technically not the best strategic option, because we know there's so much room for that, rather than focusing on let's do the next step a pro gamer would do, it's saying, hey, let's get our Hydra-bane to the next level, because we know it's not just if this was Raynor playing. It's there's GM players I see who literally never go past layer techers. So they just don't use spellcasters, don't use more than one control group. It's hatcheries and F2, or hatcheries in one army group. And they just get really good at how they use those layer tech compositions and find a way to make it work. So that just tells us that there's always a way to improve it. So I just want to keep that in the back of my mind and say, okay, maybe we'll be like, hey, maybe we should really focus on getting that momentum, right? Maybe it's our opening build order. I remember when we practiced this, we kind of took a few awkward fights and then you took a good fight, right? But I'm sure you've evolved, you've gotten better at it. Let's go through and look at the whole range of things and talk about it and talk about finishing the game. Now, one of the biggest ways of finishing the game is not just headbutting in and breaking an entrenched Terran position, but it's about stopping them getting the positions up in the first place, right? There's this really small thing with finishing the game here, which seems to be a big issue, right? Finishing the game rather than just... and treading water is not bad, but I want to give you an alternate way of winning, and that is spreading creep over 90% of the map. And picking off expansions, right? And this is something that Hydra-bane works at really well, where the Terran can be sieged up in a nice defensive position and you could get smashed headbutting into it. But once they get spread out to a 5th base, you can kind of jump in it before that even turns into a planetary and just snipe it off and kill a bunch of stuff. And if they come down into your concave, they're gonna have a real bad time. And you can kind of do this. So a couple of nice things is just spreading creep, but not just that. So we can poop creep out of overlords. Do you normally get overlord speed by the mid game or late game?
Yes. Like, but I don't have a specific time for that. It's just, I think it's usually when I put down the macro, after I put down the macro harch, and after I started my 1-1. If I remember it, I'll just do it.
That's a good timing, where if you're not focusing on rushing, it's like, hey, I should add this the longer the game goes. Let's just go, you know, once you've kind of got your 3-base economy really rolling, right? It's not high priority. That's good. So pooping creep out of overlords is great. Do you get burrow very often?
No, but this is like after I get speed. If I still remember it, I get it.
After you get overlord speed?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. So burrowed Zerglings on bases, dropping creep out of overlords, both really good ways to deny them. But it's also picking off expansions. You know, even just leaving Lings blocking expos on hold position is key, right? And then coming in with half your army and snapping that expansion. Half your army and snapping up an expansion. And this is something where it's especially if you've kind of pushed the Terran off the map, right? Because if we're talking about, oh, finishing the game is the problem, we're talking about we've crushed a fight, we're kicking ass in a game, we're really in control, but we just can't break him while he's turtling, right? So we're thinking about, okay, in a turtling scenario where the game slows down, we've suddenly got more APM in between our macro cycles to go put those Zerglings burrowed under expansions, right? We can go get half of our army that's on the north side of the map, run in, snipe a 4th or a 5th off and run away, right? So we can start to do these moves. We can also do things like if we've got a big economy, if we have a big economy, we can roll 30 Banes into a planetary. So as long as there's no tank sieged up there or anything, you basically, if fighting's happening elsewhere, you're just like, oh, let's just send 30 Zerglings there, morph Banelings, roll them into the planetary. Hopefully get all the SCVs as well. Not the most directly cost-efficient trade, but because you've got the big economy advantage, you're fine to do that, right? Anything to just not keep them off a base can be really useful. So it's good. We've just got a little list there in your documents now of like, okay, these are some ways we can choke out a Terran who's sitting back. It's lots of small things. Whereas so many of us as Zerg players, we feel this, I gotta kill him. I want to fight. I need to go break his base. Like, and we've got to kind of get rid of that urge, because any Ling Bane composition is mostly focused on being good at defending, good at fighting on creep, good at surrounding an opponent's army. You add wall-ins, you add buildings, you add tanks sieged up behind wall-ins. Terran having, you know, the best defensive setup, right? So if we're just trying to headbutt into that, it's not always the best. Even with Broodlords, sometimes it's just you pick off a base and then you pull back. You know, you wait for more infestors or corruptors or Broodlords or, you know, and all that sort of stuff. While we're still talking about the stuff you've brought me, before we really look even at this game anymore, you talked about Broodlords. So if you go for a Broodlord wave, I guess you morph like 8-10 Broodlords and then you just go for an attack straight away?
Yes.
Do you bring your queens?
No.
All right, so that's a huge one. Even if it's a really fast timing, you don't really have any corruptors or infestors or anything, just bringing your creep queens, if you still got 3 or 4 of those left over, and I sometimes will bring every single queen. And I might build a few queens to replace the ones that I'm bringing, but that way I've got 7 queens coming, tons of transfuse, and it's a good amount of anti-air for dealing with Vikings as well, or Liberators. So those queens are just an amazing thing that just makes your Broodlords about 3 times as tough in terms of the damage they can absorb. Sometimes 4 times. It's actually insane. They're a real force multiplier, the queens. So that's really good. And you said you struggle with Vikings. Obviously, those queens and then potentially corruptors can be nice. But if it's Thors, yeah. So if it's Thors, it's all about how you engage. So if you just go and just fight and just headbutt into the Thors, you will have a terrible time. Did you watch Serral versus Hero Marine from WCS?
No.
All right. While we're talking about this, let's pause this game. Let's go take a look at it. Okay. Serral, Hero Marine, WCS fall. I'm gonna link it to you on the Discord. There we go. Linked it to you. Let's link it in chat. I hear Nathaniel's voice. He's excited because he's casting some Terran. Let's go to game number 2. Let's go about half an hour into the vid. The VOD. No, 40 minutes. This is a real long game. Okay, 40 minutes should be fine. Maybe 30, 35.
Yeah, the game sounds too loud. I didn't hear you. 45?
About 30. I'm looking for the exact moment. It's going to be about 37 minutes, I think, is the first big Thor Broodlord battle we'll see. Let's see. I'm still trying to find it. Okay. So the thing is, if you stand and fight, Thors will beat the shit out of Broodlords. You know how Broodlords shoot further than their actual range, right? With the stutter step?
Not really.
Okay, so that's something we can hop into Printf's map. I think he has a Broodlord micro thing. But essentially, if you look at the way Serral... Yeah, so if you go to the 39-minute and 40-second mark and just kind of watch from here, you're going to notice Serral's Broodlords will occasionally go in range of 1 or 2 Thors, but they'll immediately pull back. So he attack moves, pulls back, attack moves, pulls back. And the thing is, because you'll notice that his Broodlord shots separate from the Broodlords are already running away while those Broodlings are hovering in midair. You can see it. And then those Broodlords still strike. So the Broodlords are attacking while already about a roach shooting distance, 3 or 4 hexes further back. And this is something which is very important. Now, there's a point at 19 minutes in-game time, which is 40 minutes and 30 seconds, 40 minutes and 25 seconds on the YouTube timestamp, where Serral A moves his Broodlords and almost loses the game. And we've just seen it on my screen right here. He almost loses the game because he got lazy, tried to neuroparasite some Thors, thought he could take it, and tried to just fight. And he almost loses every Broodlord, and he almost loses the game right there. And that's the one big slip up in this game. Other than that, after this point, Serral never makes that mistake again. And he becomes obsessive with not letting those Thors land hits. So if we fast forward now to like 50 minutes in the game, he gets up to enough Broodlords to literally one-shot a Thor. He gets like 18, 20 Broods, and he starts just one-shotting the Thor, pulling away. And you're going to notice how Hero Marine's trying to set up his Thors in a big line. He wants to A-move, have a big line of Thors, so they're all shooting at maximum range. They're not stuck behind each other. Because the Broodlords can stack up. No, I only sell bathwater, Twitch chat. I don't sell feet pics, but I know you guys send $1,000 my PayPal, you'll get some feet pics. No worries. I actually will sell bathwater. It's $10,000 though, guys. Sorry, I'm not cheap. Anyways, weirdos in chat aside, basically what you can do is you can use the terrain, right? So if he sets up a big arc in front of you, you can move your Broodlords around and come in from a flank and hit from the flank. It was really funny because I was explaining this concept while casting Hero Marine Lambo. And then we saw Lambo do the exact opposite of what he's supposed to do. So this is actually the funniest thing I've ever seen. I mean, Lambo was already dead at this point, which is why I think he took the fight. But if we open up this VOD I've just linked you, this was so funny. Yeah, it was on Ephemeron. It was the end of Ephemeron. So if you go to... Oh, this game goes for a long time. It's a pretty epic game. Go to about 35 minutes in-game time, just before... Oh yeah, 34 minutes and 10 seconds. So you can see Hero Marine setting up this big wall of Thors. And I was like, okay, I was saying these Broodlords need to move to the right-hand side on the high ground, where the Thors will kind of be stuck up against the terrain, stuck up against the ramp, and just fight 1 or 2 Thors at a time. Shoot, pull back, shoot, pull back. Okay. And then Lambo doesn't do that. He goes into the center of the open area and A-moves it. And I was like, no! Look at this fight. It is, oh my god. It is one of the worst things I've ever seen. The Thors just absolutely destroy every single Broodlord. So your aim is you can never let the Thors all shoot at once. If we freeze frame on 34 minutes and 40 second YouTube timer.
34 minutes and 45?
45's good enough, but you'll see there's a giant line of Thors. You can imagine you never want to be going 2 parallel lines hitting each other. Your Broodlords want to be stacking up and you want to be attacking the flank of that line. You always want to be hitting the edge of their battle line. You never want to be attacking into the center of it, right? Because basically that's like you attacking into a concave. We don't normally think about concaves with air units versus ground units, but that's exactly what Lambo did here. Was he attacked into the concave and let every single Thor shoot at once, and he gets massacred. One of the most one-sided fights of the tournament.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's really important just for Thor versus Broodlord theory. Obviously, Thor's got buffed in the last 6 months to a year, whenever it was. If they're allowed to stand and fight, they wreck air units. They even do well versus BCs if they don't get Yamato down. Like they're so good now. So yeah, very important to think about how those units interact. So that's good that we've kind of got that down. So it's like, okay, not only with our finishing are we thinking about, okay, Broodlords need to do all that stuff. But we're also thinking about bringing queens and that sort of stuff as well.
When you say bring queens, are you implying that I have to have perfect creep spread? Because sometimes late game where a fight has been messy, some of my creep tumors got wiped out and
Broodlords are really slow. Broodlords are super slow. Your queens will catch up. You'd be surprised how quickly your queens catch up. Because with Broodlords, you don't just commit to a fight. You start shooting, pulling back, and you keep your ground army behind your Broodlords. So your queens will catch up really quickly. And as long as you should still be spreading creep behind that push. So if you bring your queens, they'll get to the fight before the big engagement happens most of the time. So it should usually be fine, unless you've got like 0 creep spread.
Should I group the queens with the Broodlords in the same control group?
No, I just put them on my main army group, personally. As long as you don't have Ravages or something that it gets messed up with, it should be fine. Since you're playing Hydra-bane every game, you should just Hydra-bane, add the queens on there. Just use them as part of your main army, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's take a look at this game here. So in this game, we've got a Terran who's up on 5 bases. He's playing some BC battle mech, being a bit of a pain. We're at 73 drones. So we're not at a gigantic economy. It's a good economy. And we're trying to get aggressive at this point in the game. However, we don't actually have both Hydra upgrades ready just yet. And we're kind of attacking from one direction. So if I look at this last minute in the game, let's take a look here. So he's being annoying. He's really distracting us. BC's being a dick. Comes in, starts getting some queens. He's causing a ruckus, causing a nuisance, right? But what we see if we look at your setup is your whole army's on one control group. So we should really, at this point, take a deep breath, say, okay, let's split our army up, and let's get ready to flank the next time he decides to do some of that bullshit. And if not, if we're going to push him, well, that's fine. We should be going across in 2 different squads, right? One in the south, one in the north, right? And that way, if he engages you, you can always pull back the army that's engaging that battle mech. Because remember, the big problem we had in the practice session last time was Lings running into Hellion Cyclone is a real big problem. Morphing Banelings on the front, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's a little risky. But the problem here is we don't have that flank. So if we had a flank coming through the center of the map, and that started crashing down on the arse of this army, or if it was simply attacking into his natural right now, he'd be dead. So remember to freeze frame these games, especially at the point where you're moving out. And think about it from your opponent's perspective. What tools does he have? He has 2 battle cruisers, which are on the wrong side of the map. 10 Cyclones, 17 Hellions, which if your Hydra-bane forces them to stand and fight at any point, they will disappear in a few seconds. So this is the point where he should just lose the game to your attack if we attacked from 2 sides. But let's see how it plays out. Losing a lot of units. And whilst he overextends on creep and some of our units hit, it's not quite as many as we'd like. And we're giving him a lot of time here. These BCs are annoying us, right? So just a little bit slow to split our army into 2 squads, and even now. So definitely something where those queens should have been able to deal with those BCs alone. It's tough. But because there was only 2 BCs, I feel like we should have just sent our queens to deal with that. Since you did have spore crawlers, I mean, we did have an issue, right? Your 4th base didn't have any spores at it, which is part of what made this a bit more panicky for you, I think. Yeah, so we should have had 2 spores there, right? just to help buy us time. And if our queens then simply A moved over there, we'd be just fine, right? 6 more queens plus the 2 BCs. Sorry, plus the 2 spores, and we'd be okay, I think. And then we don't need to pull our whole army. It's only really if there's 3 BCs that we're in big trouble. And we accidentally target fired one of the BCs. We accidentally ran through one of the units. Oh my god, this guy's such a dick with the repairing SCVs. Very nice play by him. Obviously, if they're really consistent, like there is a point where 3 BCs are a massive pain in the ass, and you kind of need to be able to fight them. So queens don't really cut it, but I think that's usually going to coincide with you kind of smashing into his economy anyway. So there's always a chance of you going Aspire and going Corruptors, especially if they go 2 Starport BC, because we don't really want to be fighting that with Hydras, especially since your Hydras don't have any attack upgrades with this build. Actually, that's something. Against mech, we are meant to have ranged attack upgrades rather than armor. So even if you'd started armor, because you're playing just on default as if it was bio, we should have had +1 range instead of +2 carapace, right?
Okay, I forgot that. Like,
yeah.
I thought I got, because I got +1 carapace, so next time if I do +1 melee and +1 carapace, and I found that it's mech, I don't cancel the carapace, I just wait till it's finished and just...
It's your call. If it's like 30% done, I just cancel the carapace, because I'm like, it's only 20-30% done. But if it's like 70% done, 60% done, 50%, I might be like, I'll just let it finish and just queue up the range to start when it's done. Yeah. The carapace is really good versus battle cruisers. It's not terrible versus Hellions. It's worthless versus Cyclones or Tanks or Thors. It does almost nothing versus them. Okay. So yeah. We can turn those in-game sounds at volume down a little bit more, since it ducks me, but it doesn't duck you. No worries. Thank you, chat. Right. Yeah, because when I'm speaking, the volume's lower, but it doesn't do that for you. So that's a new realization for my stream setup. Thank you, chat. Okay, cool. So yeah, basically, we've missed our opportunity to get on him. And even now, when we are landing a flank on him, it's just like, it took us, and this is 3 minutes later than when we should have killed him, right? So we've let him get in a 5th up, and now he's getting a 6th up on the north as well. So I think the same thing that we saw in the coaching session previously is like, we need to be like, the moment we sense, take a deep breath, time to move out, split the army in 2. You know, and to keep it simple, do you get confused when you split your army in 2 about which army to add more stuff to, or do you have a technique for that?
So it used to confuse me, and I figured out I should just box more to the 2 and like make more units and add them to the first group. Yeah, but so the reason if you look at this fight, I was trying to attack from 2 angles. The other angle was here. This is where I splitted it, but it accidentally bumps into his army moving out.
Yeah.
Right, so I was going to attack his 4th with 2 angles, but the army I sent out to like go here bumped him to his army. So
yeah. So you split that way too late though, right? Against BattleMech, their composition is all about poking up to us and taking these engagements. So if you try to split at the last second like this, you're always going to end up in this scenario, right? So this isn't just bad luck. This is something which you can actually anticipate. This is going to happen a lot of the time, is he's going to come out and engage you, often far before you get this deep on the map. But if you've got another half, we want to be separated not just by half a screen. You want those other units to be pushing down the north side of the map. You see where I'm signaling?
Yes.
I would by default be sending them to attack that location while the other army attacks down here. And if we end up figuring out their armies in the middle, well, maybe we can just change targets and both go collapse on the army. But this is just a really nice way to do it, is let's try to make sure we split those units, because you might have been about to split them, but they weren't on separate control groups, so they weren't organized to be in a spread. And that's something which, against BattleMech especially, is so important. Against a bio player, maybe you can get away with this, even though it's still... I think even against bio, you should just, with Hydra-bane, its strength is all about splitting those units up, coming in from 2 sides, right? Flanking a bio tank army, a bio mine army, makes your army so much better. So we should just have this as our default mode. Split the army in 2 once we're ready to move out on the map, and start looking for those flanks. So if we just start doing that every game by default, like you're just going to avoid this scenario where he gets to run around in circles with BC, Hellion, Cyclone, which is what Hellion, Cyclone, BC wants to do, right? He gets to run around and just pick away at you, and then he's got 6-7 bases, and he's the Zerg player who's got more economy and can be inefficient. So by this point, he's the Zerg, and we're in big trouble because he can just kind of pump out more stuff than we can deal with. He's got the bigger economy. So we've slipped behind at this stage of the game. So I think if we can kind of look at another replay, let's see if that same thing happens. Let's hop out of that replay. Let's go to another one. And I know we're probably missing some late game micro there, but I think late game micro, we've already covered some Broodlord stuff. We've already covered some other stuff in theory. Let's go and take a look at exactly what happens in some of the other games. Let's see if this is a pattern or if that was kind of the exception to the rule.
Okay. Are you still in the game? I cannot select.
Oh, I just exited. No, I had already exited. Maybe it's just derping. Leave party, and I will invite you to party again. Nope. Oh, you're offline. Yeah. So your BattleNet just derped. You need to just log out and log back in. I'll do the same thing.
Okay.
Just to make sure, just in case mine is derpy as well. Just BattleNet had a poop. How are we doing, Chase, in chat? Thank you very much. Goldheart says, is it too late to get into StarCraft? No. It's kind of like something where you just need to expect to not be winning your very first games, because you're not gonna, it's not like when you play Fortnite and there's like 50 billion other people who literally have no idea how to play the game because it's very popular. It'll take you a couple games to figure out what the hell's going on and start winning some games, but you'll get there. Let me get you. Nice, my man. Quick to the invite.
Still can't view the replay though.
It's probably an old one. Remember, a patch came out just on last Wednesday, last Tuesday, so you might just be looking at an older replay.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's what's happened. Okay.
So do we have any other options, or?
I should have other versus Terran ones.
Yeah. We can always just grab one of the recent ones and take a look at it.
This one, I guess.
All right, just make me the lobby host, and let's see how this one goes. Ephemeron, and this is a map where there are some big wide open areas, but I think this map punishes you 10 times harder if you don't split your army as well. So we'll see some really exaggerated situations, whether it's bio or mech. But either way, I'm sure we'll see some new stuff. So your macro looked pretty good in that last game. I'm sure there's things we could improve on, but let's focus more on, you know, the problems that we're perceiving and that we're wanting to really work on, that we're seeing as, hey, you know, you wrote out that great list. It is 4-minute 30 spores against Hellion play, by the way, but if everyone's going battlecruiser opening, you could push that to 5 minutes. So you can be a greedy boy to take advantage of the meta. You also mentioned, so while we're going through this, that you said, what if the Terran keeps dropping me? So what, I mean, okay, you're playing against a bio player, you're ahead, they keep dropping you. Are you saying like they pick up their whole army and they just go drop here and they keep dropping there and they're just doing anything to like keep you back, or what?
I think it's just 2 ships of Marines, like maybe 4 ships split it into 2 and dropped my 2nd and 3rd at the same time. I figured out it's just putting some Lings and Banes at each base should work.
That's something which is, you don't want to just leave Ling Bane all over the place though, right? So you can do that on the fly, but we want to have a drop defense squad. If you see a Terran who starts dropping a lot, or you see a drop coming your way, preferably you're spotting that a long way away, right? With creep, Zerglings, or Overlords on the map. And we want to split off a squad. So if you just send Ling Bane, well, they can just keep picking up and dropping forever, right? So realistically, we do want to get rid of the problem. So I would say always have at least 2 or 3 Hydras in there so that you actually kill the medevac as well. And just pack a Ling Bane. And if you just put that on your drop defense key, you know, you can run that between your main and your natural, your second and your third base to defend, right? And it'll clean them up pretty quickly. So, I mean, if you see a double drop coming, how much... First of all, what control group do you use for your drop defense key? We should always know that off the top of our head.
I don't have a drop defense control group.
Ooh, so that's a big problem, mate. That's a really big problem. We should have it like, it should be muscle memory. Oh shit, there's a drop coming. Box this section of our army, throw it onto a key, put it down there. Now, you technically, I mean, you've got 3 army groups, right? 1, 2, 3, and then you've also got 9, which is tilde? I'm trying to remember. Is that tilde, W?
Tilde is 8, 9 is the scratch pad. Yeah, I still have 6 and 7 empty.
Yeah, I mean, well, what are you using 3 for? Like in this game, it's Overseer, right? So
3 is usually air units.
Yeah, so I mean, the thing is, most of your games are being won on Hydra-bane. You don't have any air units at that point. You can easily just have a drop defense squad on number 3, right? So drop defense squad is number 3. And if you get Brood Lords, they don't get a control group anymore, is a way to do it. Or we could just make it 6 every game. You said you don't use 6? Actually, I like consistency. You reckon 6 is good?
Yeah, 6 is good.
Okay. So if it's a double drop, how much would you do?
So usually just box it and put it on the scratch pad control group and just move it there.
How many units do you think you'd put? If you saw a double drop going towards your natural, you're going to split off units from your main. So like I said, have at least 2 or 3 Hydras. How much Zergling Baneling do you think you'd grab?
That's the problem. Sometimes I grab not much and I die. Sometimes I grab too much and lost time, and Terran comes back with the eco. So
how much do you think it should be then? Well, just make a confident decision here, and then I'll add my thoughts.
10, 12 Zerglings with 2 or 3 Hydras, I guess.
So you've just said 10 to 12 Zerglings, 2 or 3 Hydras. Okay, so if we calculate that supply-wise, that is 6 supply of Hydras and 6 supply of Zerglings. That's 12 supply to deal with 20 supply of Terran dropping you.
Okay. So
I don't think that's enough. I think that's being really, really lazy. Because if you shut down that double drop, even if you've overcommitted a few more units to it, like that's... You don't want to be distracted by it, right?
Okay.
You want to be able to shut it down hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go for the same supply as they have and include some Banelings just to make sure in case they get in a tight little corner. Always good to have a bunch of Banelings. So, I mean, if we say 3 Hydras, maybe 20 Zerglings and a few Banelings, what do you think?
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I always overcommit to my drop defense just a little bit because my main army is what needs the most attention. I can always disengage with my main army. I can always run around. I can buy time. I can do all sorts of things. The last thing I want to do is be trying to micro a weak Hydralisk back in a drop defense squad, or I accidentally let him unload in a corner and now my Zerglings can't get in at them, and now I lose all my drop defense squad and everything's in chaos because I'm running drones away. I want my drop defense to be as easy as possible because the amount of APM strain that comes onto me as a player, if I don't make that easy for myself, is crazy. Like, it's really hard. So I've just been writing this kind of under the questions, by the way, up there. Mm-hmm. So drop defense squad is number 6, 3 Hydras, 20 Zerglings, plus, I don't know, 5 Banes or something like that. There we go. That sounds really good. You see 5 drops coming. We can just double that, right? We can go up. Yeah. Sorry?
By double drop, you mean just 2 medevacs dropping at one location, or...
Doesn't matter. Whether it's dropping 1 location or 2, you'll go put it on the edge of the map. Like, if those 2 drops are coming down... Like look at this map we're in right now. Look at the right hand. Imagine you see 2 drops coming down the right. Doesn't matter if they go for the natural and the main. Your dudes are going to be right up on the edge. You're going to kill them as they fly over. And then you can A-move up to your main to defend it. Well, what if there's a drop coming down the right and down the left? Well, it doesn't matter. Your main army's on the left, so it's covered. Your main army covers the drop on the left. Generally speaking, don't get me wrong, sometimes they can split up and hit multiple mineral lines and you might need to react on the fly. It's a very rare scenario, and usually you can just run the drones away from one base, wait for your drop defense squad to clean up one drop, and then it can move to the other base to clean it up. It's very rare you're getting hit 3 mineral lines at once. And that's usually a situation where you've messed up your map control to not have been able to intercept those drops and kill them before they got there. Like, usually something else has gone wrong, right? Sometimes we spend too much time overthinking, like, oh, but in this scenario, there was like 7 dropships hitting every base at once. And usually you want to say, well, rather than looking at how to deal with that, let's rewind the game a minute and say, how do I stop the game getting to that position? Oh, I mean, I saw these drops coming. I could have just A-moved my main army and killed 3 of those dropships on their way over or something like that, right? There's always some simpler way of dealing with the situation a little bit earlier on.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, so we've got the idea of the drop defense squad. We've got the spores. You mentioned, what do you do if your first overlord accidentally dies as well? So basically, if your first overlord dies, fix your pathing so it doesn't happen again. React faster. Immediately build replacement overlord when it starts taking damage, not after it dies. And obviously the other thing is move second Ovi into position. Play normal build. Your normal build is safe against everything. You're always going for a safe baneling mess timing, aren't you? So yeah, so like, I mean, just play your normal conservative build. You don't need to change anything if you lose that overlord, right? That's the power of doing such a style of play that you are playing. So anyway, let's go back in this game. Your opponent's done a nice dirty timing to you. And let's take a look at this. A lovely multiple medevac Hellbat Marauder timing. Oof. Super weird opening. That's going to go into some mech play, but really bad economy mech play. So we're droning. We're droning. We're trying to go Mutilating Bane. So I imagine we think we're up against bio play.
No, I think I was tilted. I forgot. So basically, I tried to swap Hydras with Mutas for like a few games, I think.
Right.
I forgot why though.
Yep. And then we see this push coming. Oof, we're a little bit slow to morph aliens here, morph banelings here. Oh no. We should be building more Zerglings, but we're not. Oh. Yeah, should have kept those banelings back until the queens got here and then used them on the Hellbats. That's going to be nasty. Let's see the transfuses. That one. Banelings are clicking in to the Hellbats quite well. Did miss 1 or 2 transfuses. We only just started building Zerglings, so I mean, we really, yeah, I think this game does look a little bit tilted. In terms of realizing what's going on, let's go right back, because you scouted at the normal timing, you come through. So first things first, we see a Marine with no add-ons. I would say that's a little bit sus, but that's okay. In terms of overall scouting though, if we really want to be on top of our game, we should always be trying to just occasionally send a Zergling through to see what the follow-up is, right? Often what I'll do at this point, after I clean up this Reaper, I'll be like, hey, Zergling, go there, and then into the base. And hopefully it gets in. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Now, another big tell is if you ever see just depots walling off the front of the base, which you're going to spot at some point here. Oh, we didn't even clean up that Reaper. You were super tilted this game, dude. We can see that you are not playing your normal game. I've seen Shengi play better than that, man. Just let a Reaper do a full circuit and annoy you and get out alive. Yeah, at some point we see the front of that base. I don't know when. Let's take a look here at our vision. So you send some Lings out to try and get a little bit of vision. We've got a good queen count. We did forget a spore on the 3rd base, which is actually a pretty big issue. It's a big shame that we don't have that. And then, yeah, we never really sent any Lings in here to check what was up. And we do end up droning to full 3 base economy. Whereas arguably, if you want to play mega safe, we would say, well, if you don't know your opponent's actually going 3 command centers, we should probably stop at 4 gases, right? And just be massing Zergling Baneling with your style. 60 drones, maybe 55, 58 drones, right? Whereas you've gone straight up to 70 drones on 4 base. That being said, yeah, sorry.
I didn't know that. I thought the goal was to get to 74 as quick as possible.
We've always got to be flexible, right? That is your default goal. But if your opponent's doing a 2-base all-in, what if he's doing a 5 barracks bio tank all-in or bio mine all-in? Just pure bio aggression off 5 barracks. Or what if he's gone 4-5 factories and he's just coming across with Hellbat tank, right? I mean,
So if I don't see a third base, then I should aim at 50-ish.
I would say you can still go 55, 60, because you're often not going to have that information anyway until a bit later. So let's just say 60 drones. Let's just say basically just be slightly under mineral saturation, potentially on a third or something. The thing is, the reason is I don't even think we need to do that too often. Okay. There's a few ways we can address this situation, but before that, I just want to make sure you know that the theory there, because that's a very general StarCraft theory, which we should know as a Diamond player. And a lot of players out there, I think, aren't really focusing on it as much. And that's just the idea of a safe lead. If your opponent's on 2 base, doesn't have a third command center start, and this basically is a 2 base all in as well here, by the way, what's the maximum SCV count he can take advantage of?
Like 44?
Yep. So if he can only take advantage of 44 workers. So I mean, this is just something where no matter what your game plan is, everything's flexible in StarCraft, right? So your goal can be, let's get up 72, 73, I think it's like 72 drones because we want the gases on your 4th, right? Something like that. Or maybe it's just the minerals on your 4th. Kind of depends how your mineral gas ratio goes. Basically, we want to rush up that economy. But if our opponent's going for 45 workers and we're trying to get 30 workers ahead, while going double upgrades, a 4th base, so that's 2 bases ahead of our opponent, and we're teching up and going Bane speed and Hydra. So we're going awesome tech, and awesome upgrades, and awesome economy, and awesome base count, which is another part of economy. Like, we're trying to get so far ahead on it just doesn't make sense, right? How could we possibly keep that safe? We can't unless we've just macroed better than they have. Because they're putting their money into army, we're putting our money into everything that's not army. Economy upgrades tech. Economy upgrades tech. He's army, right? So this is just something you always want to have this, where you're going to go look at a game like this and you go, oh, this is a 2 base all in, right? You should automatically at the end of this game go, oh, it was a 2 base all in. Number 1, did I realize it was a 2 base all in? And number 2, what should I have stopped at work account wise? And in ZvT, it's a bit funny because often we defend a 2 base all in even off 66 workers, even off like 3 bases of workers, but we should absolutely not be going higher than that. So absolute maximum of 66 workers. And even that is only unique to ZvT, where creep, queens, and banelings are insane at keeping us alive, right? They're just such good defensive units. That combination, queens and banelings and stuff. But so we can still go up to 66 workers potentially, right? But we need to kind of look at this and also say, okay, well, how did we not realize this was coming? In terms of scouting, if our overlord gets shut down and we really don't have any idea of what we're up against, okay, well, let's go back to that very first overlord first of all. Could that have done a better job? Let's check. You sent it in quite early, by the way. I like to send my overlord in normally about 3:45 is when I click it in. Let's take a look there. I think you did a decent job with it. Yeah, you sent it in 15 seconds earlier than I would, but it wouldn't have made a difference. Either way, you would have seen nothing with this overlord. That's fine.
Okay.
So what's your backup scouting? Zerglings. Okay?
Okay.
If you don't see much, make sure you send lings in from their 3rd. So send a pair or 3 lings every 30 seconds until you know what's up. Now, I don't know if you need to do that every 30 seconds. In this game, for instance, if you just sent that at this point, you would have got an idea of what's going on. Even if you just run up that ramp and you see a Marauder and Hellions banking up there, that's okay. Already a Marauder is a huge tell. Why the fuck is a Terran building a Marauder this early? That's super weird. If we see Hellions hiding in the main, that's a big tell. If we see the 2nd factory at all, or the 3rd factory, all big tells that something weird is going on here. So what's the other thing is, hey, wait, why is there no 3rd command center in the wall? Normally at 5 minutes, if we look at most of your games, I bet you'd see a 3rd command center in the wall a lot of the time. Not always, but I reckon a good amount of the time you'd see a 3rd command center down there. So yeah, just generally try to get those lings in, try to get some idea of what's going on, see what the army looks like. And sometimes even if you don't see what's up, you can still defend. So let's talk about our reactions on the fly. In this game, maybe we should have been a bit better with our map vision since we didn't know what the hell was going on, right? Because we don't know what's going on, we should have been more on top of leaving a Ling outside. So after these Hellions left, what if we brought that Zergling and we put it out in front the natural, right? The Zergling from the third to the natural. Because even if you saw this moving out, that would have been all the info you needed. So let's take a look. We also could argue that you just could have macroed better because we were sitting on a lot of lava for quite a long time with this build. No macro hatch yet either. So if we'd built these drones a bit earlier and then just kind of been building more Zerglings earlier by default, that would have been good. But yeah, if you saw this move out, you have like a Ling there and you're like, oh shit, there's like an attack of Marauders and shit. That's going to be huge because if you started making all these Zerglings into Banelings right now, pulled your queens to the front, that would be huge. So this is what you should always be doing. Whenever you die to a weird attack, especially something like this, look at the build and come up with a rule for it, okay? So in this case, what are we going to call this? This is a 2-base Mass Hellbat Blue Flame SCV Mine Marauder Psychopath all in is what we're going to call. This is a crazy build this guy's doing, right? This is a really weird build. Okay, so you've spotted it. I've said pull the queens to the front. Make a shitload of Banes. Okay, what else? What else can we do to make sure we're safe?
Make Lings.
Okay. Mass Slings. Anything else we can do?
I don't know.
We can use our static defense. So, this sort of all-in needs to do damage hard and fast. The medevacs are a big part of it, both for healing but also for dropping on you. So, he's also got Widow Mines. Be really nice if we had detection to deal with those. Sometimes gives us the ability to kill them before they even go off. So, move all spores to the front. So what if you just grabbed all 3 spores? You're missing one on your third, which was unfortunate. But if we moved all 3 just to the front, maybe we put 1 on our natural, 2 on our third base out front. And then suddenly these medevacs can't do much, can they? They're going to take a ton of damage. They're going to go down to that. So that's awesome. Okay, we could also build a spine at natural and third base. 1 at each. All right, a spine with transfuse is going to be fantastic against this sort of attack. You do those 2 things, this is the easiest hold of your life. Super easy hold. Because Banelings will clear all the Hellbats. Like, basically, if you have your Queens and Spines ready in an arc, they've kind of got to come in with everything at once. And whenever they come in with everything at once, that's when your Banelings can roll forward. So, we should be putting our Banelings on a separate control group. We kind of hadn't quite organized ourselves with that. Obviously, we were panicking a bit here. But yeah, we didn't end up putting these Banelings on a separate control group, which we should have been trying to do. The other thing is Ling Backstab. Anytime you face someone who is doing a weird Hellbat all-in, go for that Ling Backstab if possible.
But how many Lings? At least?
It's just whatever you can spare.
Okay.
So if you're like, oh yeah, I feel fine, I see this moving out, maybe you just send all 20 Lings across to backstab the natural. Cuts off this reinforce, might just get in and kill all of his STVs and win the game. But it's a bonus. That's a bonus, right? That's a bonus kind of checkmate move, right? It's not a priority. So that's, like, if you already had some Lings out on the map pressuring, we'd be like, oh cool, just wait with those Lings till he's halfway across the map and then attack from the third base in and hopefully do some big damage. But just by having the Queens up front and pairing those with the Banes, having these other Banes pre-morph, you probably hold. Add the Spores, you definitely hold. Add the Spines, he's in Dicktown. He's fucked. Like, he is so ruined if you do that. So it's really important to just kind of think about, wait, this is an all-in attack. Like, would I pull Spores and build Spines if someone did a Hellbat attack with 6 Hellbats, 3 Marines, and a medevac? No, not at all. Because that's a light commitment. And this is where understanding our opponent's build order and how ridiculous it is comes into play. This guy is hinging everything. He's literally pulled SCVs to repair his units during the fight. He's built like a dozen Hellbats, 3 or 4 Marauders with stim and concussive shells. He's got +1 vehicle weapons kicking in. And his third command set has just started at 7 minutes. Like, this is a shit economic follow-up. If he doesn't do massive damage, he's screwed, right? This is not just a normal Hellbat poke. This is an all-in attack. So whenever you're up against an all-in, sit there and really go, whoa, what can I do? You're already way up in workers. Let's take every safety precaution we can. So you want to look at these games, not just go, surprise me. Should have reacted faster. You want to be very specific. Rather than just say, I should scout better next time. We want to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do better to scout next time. So we know the exact next action to improve the game, right? And then we immediately follow that with what is the exact response to that scouting. And we need it, like I said, we've got that little dot point list now written up in your document. Pull the queens, make a shitload of banes, mass lings, move the spores to the front, build a spine at the natural and the third base, use your Ling Backstab for the bonus checkmate move. And now we've got an entire set play in front of us, and we're leaving nothing down to chance. And we're most importantly leaving nothing down to our brain having to problem solve live in the game. Because if we have to problem solve in the game, it's bad. It's bad. Our brains are small. We've got monkey brains. They're not good at solving problems live in a game. We've got too much going on. So anytime we get a chance to map something out before a game or after we've suffered some big damage to an attack, it's just an awesome opportunity for us to say, oh, I know exactly what I have to do next time, and it makes your life way easier.
Can you go back to the 5-minute mark? Because even looking at the 5-minute mark, I couldn't tell it's an all-in. Like, even if I have links, other than the Marauder that you said, it's a huge tell, it's an all-in. So let's say now I run links in. I see 3 factories, 2 factories with 2 tech labs. I would assume it's normal mech play.
No third command centers. So
Okay.
you see multiple factories and you see Marauders building and you see tech lab upgrading. So look at this base here at 5 minutes. Is it normal mech play if there's an upgrade on the barracks? Or are you saying if you don't see the Marauder? Because if you see an upgrading barracks and 3 factories and Marauders, that's a big tell. Because there's no good biomech builds out there, right? There's no good biomech builds.
So, okay. Because, number one, there's no third command center. And then, because the upgrades are going on both the barracks and the factory.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's not clear exactly what the hell he's doing, right? But the Marauder is a huge tell. So anytime you see Marauders, Marauders are a big sign of aggression. Don't get me wrong, maybe you'll play some weirdo who just likes to build a Marauder or two. But in this case, we see, barracks upgrades and factory upgrades, and multiple factories. Like we're just gonna play safe. The thing is, there's no signs of greed here. So what are signs of greed? There's no third CC, no double upgrades. Now he does happen to have an armory, but it's just one. And a weird one is he doesn't have gases on the natural, which tells us he's actually making a shitload of mineral units, Marauders and Hellions, but that's a bit harder to piece together. What's really great is this is such a weird delayed all-in, right? It's not as clear a picture. So I like that you brought our attention to this, because check this out. It is weird. Why hasn't he moved out yet if it's an all-in? Why is it taking so long? It's because he's doing a weird, super tech-heavy timing attack, right? The thing is, I think we as a general rule, we should have been fully saturated a minute ago. How much pressure has he actually done this game? Not a lot. He's poked around with a few Hellions, right? 6 minutes 30 in the game, and we don't have 66 drones yet. Has he done any? He hasn't done any air pressure either. So let's go back and look at your build order. What's going on here? Because this is not the situation. Remember 4 minutes 30 as a benchmark? We want to have 8 drones up on our third by then, preferably. So this game, we were a little bit slow to drone up our third early on. We had a really, really fast queen count. So I think you focused really hard on your queens, and I don't think you droned quite as hard as you could have. That being said, you recovered quickly in exploding in drones, but then we were not quite as consistent with that drone production as we probably could have been. And then we freeze here on 54 drones for quite a while. So it was about 550, I think, when we were first hit 54 drones. And then it was another 45 seconds until we built more. So we were a little bit iffy on our macro here, this game as well. Because you could say as a standard rule, I mean, we should have already been saturated by this point. There was nothing that messed the game up early. So we by default should have just been massing units off 3 base, remember 66 drones? If they don't, and going, oh, why don't you have a third? Like that also could have been the tell that, oh, there's some weird shit happening, right? Let's build a spine for safety, or let's make some more banelings, et cetera, et cetera. Let's scout a little bit more as well. So I think you can look at this game through multiple lenses. We could look at it and say, let's just tighten our build up next time. But it's kind of useful that we've figured out all that scouting stuff as well. We've talked about the Lings. We've talked about extra tools that are in our arsenal. But we can also look at this and just say, hey, we could have just macroed a little bit better. So let's go back to that opening and take a look here. Because I think you started building a 4th queen immediately. That's what I think probably happened with this opening. 3rd queen, droning is good. 3rd hatch is not down yet. That's pretty normal, I guess. Oh yeah, because we decided to go for the later 3rd every game, didn't we? Yeah. I remember. Which is good, because it just keeps your early game nice and standard. Alright, and now the drone goes over. We're droning already behind it as well. Cool. So, little shift there. We were a little bit lazy, right? You grabbed the drone, and you told it to build that hatch when it wasn't even over at the 3rd base yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've got 3 lava sitting there, right? So we should technically, and what I actually do is I actually control group that drone, or I use camera hotkeys, one or the other, often both. Often I'll zoom to my 3rd camera hotkey to build the hatch, but I'll often have it on control group 2 as well. So if the Reaper comes in, I can pull it back, or I can hide it behind the hatch without having to look at it. But the important thing there is just like we could have been slightly better with building drones consistently here. No reason, like the whole point of delaying your 3rd hatch as standard with your build is we can be hitting that drone key. This is a real small optimization thing, but that would just make you that little bit more efficient, just that little bit. So you build 2 overlords here, no supply blocks, which is awesome. Drones are being held down. So no, you didn't overbuild queens. I think maybe these 2 lava injects were a little bit slow to spend them. Let's take a look here. So we've got 16 workers on our natural. We're about to go back to 16 in the main. We've started our next 2 queens. We haven't rallied to our 3rd yet. We should be doing that. We should be queuing up more drones now. So we're queuing up more drones. Haven't rallied to our 3rd just yet. So because we didn't do that, we're going to have to do an extra action of moving extra workers over potentially. So that's just, you know, anytime you set that rally point ahead of time, it saves you a lot of energy here, right? I guess for you, you maybe were worried about sending those drones out and getting them picked off by Hellions?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Why were we so worried though? It's because we had a big hole in our vision in a really integral area out front of your 3rd base. Why don't we have an overlord there? That's really big. That's very, very big. So this overlord up here, remember, not that important. Remember, your 2 most important overlords are outside your natural, outside your 3rd. You've got to see where those Reapers and Hellions are. And that's so crucial. So that tiny detail gives you a bit more comfort here. Lets you rally over to that base so you don't have to double up on your actions quite as much. So we're getting that nice, fast, safe baneling nest. We're up at 5 queens right on time. We're building a few more Lings to stop these run-bys. We're still very blind on that 3rd. So at any moment, Hellions could have darted in and killed these drones. Yeah. You also went spores really early. So, like on 4:30. So just remember that point we said about if you're playing against, like, check your replays. If no one's hitting you this early, delay those spores just to be a bit greedier. 4:45, 4:50. If it's only BCs, 5 minutes. Start getting greedy with that spore timing. Nice little adjustment you can make. For now, I don't think it's a big deal. If you just do 4:30 every game, you stick with it, that's okay. Big problem we had here, though, we forgot to build it on our 3rd, which is the most important base. If Banshee came in, we'd lose all the drones. Let's take a look. So now we're droning. We're catching back up. So overall, I'm actually quite happy with this opening. I think it was just this hiccup. This freeze up here on 53, 54 workers was a bit unfortunate, right? So we're queuing up queens. We've got the minerals. We've got overlords popping. Some Hellions come out. We're setting up some Ling vision. And if we just kept droning at this point, it would have been absolutely lovely. We build 6 more Lings. We start taking gases. But remember, you've looked at your 3 bases. You've gone, oh, we're at 16 drones on each base. But you weren't building drones. And that's always the cardinal sin with this build order, right? You're about to chomp so many drones into structures when you put these extractors down. You're about to chomp so many drones down into a double evo, into a macro hatch, into a 4th base. We need to be holding down that drone key. These bases need to get way oversaturated to make up for how many drones we're throwing into these buildings. So it's a very common efficiency mistake. We go, oh, I've got 16 on each base. We're cool. and we're just a little bit slow to queue up this next round of drones. And even there, we queued up 9 just as a lava inject popped, I think it must have been, because we've got 4 lava left over. Oh, actually, no, we were out of minerals. That was fine. Fair enough. That was okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we were just a little bit slow to drone up there. Overall, it's a solid opening. For your level, you're doing way better than Diamond 2 level. Is your MMR about the same, by the way, or have you gone up or down?
4,000 now.
Oh, awesome. That's really close to Diamond 1, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 100 away from Diamond 1.
Hey! Congrats, man. That's awesome. Dude, that's huge. Okay. Yeah, there's no gigantic errors here. This is still a solid execution, and like I said, it's better than your MMR. But there's lots of little details that can make your life easier. That Overlord out front. Okay. Yeah, I think generally speaking though, we should have been fine. So let's fast forward, let's look at the rest of this replay. And let's see, do we get back into a playable position? Definitely with the, hey, you were tilted and you tried muters. It's definitely going to be an awkward one. It's going to lead to some really weird scenarios, right? Playing muters against mech is one of the strangest situations. It's really just awkward. At this point, we're still on 49 workers. His macro is so bad that you maybe have a way back into this game. Because he's just taken so long to saturate that third, and he hasn't even been like transferring his workers properly. So that's like, there's a chance, but it's still a bad situation because he's got all these like awesome upgrades and all this utility. Yeah, and he's like being a dickhead. He's putting widow mines everywhere. This is awesome. Real tactical Terran player. Very tactical. Just wants to, yeah, he wants to fuck with you. This sort of Terran is the I'm gonna screw with my opponent, their brain's gonna break style. So this is the sort of style and you're doing something silly like just going off book and playing muters. This sort of player is gonna have a field day. Like right now we're floating 5,000 minerals and 1,000 gas, and we're just like waiting for our greatest fire and sitting on 40 lava while staring at what, a widow mine, 5 cyclones and a hellion, 5 hellions and a cyclone. Like it's not even something you need to be worried about. Like, right? You could just attack move that with your Ling Bane and go back to macroing, but you're kind of just totally off book and confused in this game. And this would have been a game where Hydra-bane would have been glorious. Hydra's wreck widow mines, Banelings wreck widow mines. Hydra-bane's already good versus battle mech. Oh, if you went Hydra-bane, dude. Alright, yeah, you would have shat on him, man. Taking a big steaming dump on his forehead. So, was there anything else, any other point where this game was close, or is it just you slowly dying?
I think it's just me slowly dying. I forgot. Oh, did I? Yeah, I made it to Brood Lords. Yeah, and he.
It's like 5 Brood Lords with 5 Corruptors there. And then you try to pull your queens across, but like, yeah, he's like, you've done nothing to clear up the map. You've got no ground army. Yeah.
Okay.
That was just us going off book there. So you could have got back in that game, dude. If you knuckled down and stuck with Hydra-bane, rebuilt your third instantly, droned up, you absolutely could have got back in that game. But yeah, just got a bit too kind of distracted by the very aggressive early game. You got to remember, if someone goes for something that crazy, there's a good chance they're way behind.
So for widow mines, I actually don't know how to deal with widow mines. So.
Are you doing like with bio or mech? Which one do you face against it more often?
More often is bio.
Okay. Okay. Bio mine, hey. Does anyone in chat know if they've seen any games of someone playing Biomine versus Hydra-bane recently? Because not a lot of people are playing Hydra-bane, so we've recently been seeing a lot of people playing just pure Ling Bane, straight up to Ultras. Just Ling Bane Queen. And people are going Widow Mines against it. But I haven't really seen it like with Hydras. You know what? Let's actually, we don't have much time left, so we've got to finish up. Let's quickly go into, have you played Minute Micro?
Yes, but not recently.
All right, let's hop in. I mean, you can practice your Broodlord micro in here, I'm pretty sure. Part of me like wants to make me the player so I can show some things, but we'll just quickly take a look around. I'll let you steer. Yeah, I don't know if they've got spreading versus mines, but basically what you do is you just spread your stuff forwards through their army. So it's kind of like just doing any splitting micro, but you're splitting towards your opponent. So let's take a look. Let's take a look. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe he doesn't even have a Broodlord one. I don't know. His names of them aren't always the most explanatory. Splitting fire, target fire, choke points, shade grenade, grenade kiting, target fire, baneling target fire, retarget stutter, speed run. Obviously he's a Protoss player, so he's more minded towards that, but he does have some stuff. Hold position, harass, focus fire, blink sniping, corner kiting, target fire kiting, flexible focus fire, forming concaves, mind dodging. Oh, right up the top.
Right at the
third from the top. Yeah. Third from the left, top row.
third from the left. Top row, target fire kiting.
Mind dodging. Sorry, top. Yeah, top row. Row is horizontal, right? The third column. Top row, third column.
Oh yeah, mind dodging.
Yep, give it a click. All right, so let's. Oh, okay. So this is pick up. Anyway, you can still do it. I want you to just move through and just spread your shit out. Yeah. So obviously this is not an ideal scenario. We'd be much better doing this in unit tester. But
okay.
Yeah, let's hop out. I don't know if there's Broodlord stuff there either. We've got to finish up anyway. So let me just very quickly. I'm gonna search my own YouTube channel and see if I can find some stuff. Because I know I've done so many videos talking about splitting against Widow Mines. I probably even talk about it in my How to Get Better Micro Daily from like 2016. But let me search my YouTube channel.
Do I need to have any additional control groups for that, or is just boxing?
No, it's just boxing. Yeah. Widow Mines and Zerg and Protoss newbie stream. Oh, beautiful. Okay, this should be. So hold position's really nice. You can also use. Okay, so I just linked it in the Twitch chat. I just linked it to you as well. Let me see. I'll bring it up on the main monitor as well. Okay, so that's in chat for the people watching. So I'm sure we should be doing. If we go to like 12 minutes in that video, I think is where we're doing Ling Bane. No, we're doing it with Zealots at some point. Okay, 16 minutes is Ling Bane. Same method. So anyway, basically what we're going to do, and what I'm explaining is that as I'm attacking, I'm boxing the front corners and moving them diagonally forward. So we're splitting our two front sections of our units, kind of like a V, through our opponent's army. And we're trying to do two things. Number one, pull Widow Mine shots to their army. Number two, pull them away from the core of our army, especially the banelings, which are naturally the slower units that clump up more, that come in from behind. So, yeah, I'm basically kind of just talking through that concept, and then I'm just kind of showing it over and over again while talking it. So you can watch there. And so the thing is, that's if you have to take a front-on fight, and especially when you're talking about 4 mines, 6 mines, that's what you do, and it works really well. Now, I'm obviously showing this in a scenario with a number of units which cannot win the fight. So I'm sure that there's always someone who has, you know, maybe limited brain power who's like, but you didn't win. If you guys win a fight with 5 banelings and 20 zerglings versus 15 marauders and 10 widow mines, you're hacking. So yeah, it's it's more about showing the technique. The fact that we're able to spread those widow mine shots away from the core of our units through their army is the biggest part. The other thing here, so that's one thing. The other thing is if you're actually playing against Ling Bane, against Biomine, so you actually, that's if you take a fight. Mostly though, you swap into backstab mode, right? So basically they can't attack. They can't press in the way tanks, etc. can, right? And they take a long time to set up. They take a long time to set up properly because Widow Mines are really bad if they're clumped, like terrible.
Okay.
So basically what you can do is this. So your response. Send 80% of your army to backstab nonstop.
80%.
Yeah, constantly rally Lings to rally point, mass morph Banes, and every, 15 seconds, roll a new set of 10 to 15 Banes into their bio parade push, right? The idea is you just click it into their army. You don't even need to look at it. They will naturally hit Marines, hit Widow Mines, blow up some shit, but most importantly, that it's enough Banelings that they have to stim and micro backwards. If they're clumped at all, and if they don't micro, some of their shit's just going to get hit and you're taking okay trades. Ideally, you get up to 85 drones. Real big economy, right?
Okay.
And yeah, basically you tear them apart with your gigantic backstabs. Like massive backstabs. And you take advantage of the fact that they can't punish you for it. Where if they're going tanks or other compositions, they can kind of push in between your rallies. With this, you're like, nah, click 15 Banes in. They're like, ugh, and the whole army has to like stim backwards and spread. Half their Widow Mines fire. And then they start moving forward and another 15 Banelings. So you literally just in this, like, you hold down the Baneling key, click some Banelings in, hold down the Baneling key, you just inject, build Zerglings. Okay, micro your backstab for a bit, jump home, morph more Banelings, click them into their army, and you don't even look at them. You just like, lol, click them into their army over and over. And it's the most bullshit thing when a Zerg does it properly. Because Terran's like, fuck this, man. This is unfair. You just get to defend my entire push with like a small section of army. But then they can do drops, they can do other things. They can micro it really well and push in a bit faster if they're a better player. So the other thing is, well, if you have Hydras, you're in luck. Hydras are amazing. And you're a Hydra player. Also, you can fight it front on with Hydras, right? So the way this works is basically Hydras move into their spread. When they stim their bio forward, click a big pack of Banes into them.
Okay.
If they pull back, you can pull back the Banes, right? But the idea is if they do the ideal spread of the way Biomine's good against Ling Bane, you can just attack it with a wall of Hydras. And it was, oh, yeah, we'll fight a few Marines, Marauders, and Widow Mines at a time. Cool, easy. And you'll just pick away at them. They have to stim a whole pack of bio forward to push your Hydras back, but then your Banes come forward, then they have to stim backwards to try to get back to the safety of their Widow Mines. And there's a very APM-intensive dance that can go on there. I find it much easier to just backstab with 80% of my army, especially because I'm often playing with 200 plus ping. So for me, I'm like, even if I'm playing Hydras, I'd rather just, backstab with most of my shit. It's just each time I roll my Banelings in on the front, I'm also going to attack with my Hydras, but as soon as the Banelings are gone, pull back with the Hydras. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. Takes a lot of practice. It's hard to get repetitive practice against at the moment because there aren't that many bio players on the ladder. But yeah, if you can find someone who does it, get them to do it to you 47 times in a row, you will improve very quickly against it.
Okay.
All right, man. I got a jet, but I think we've got a lot of things for you to work on. I think already your MMR's gone up a lot. We gave you all those theory notes answering your questions, but I think more than anything, against Battlemech, remember to, by default, let's change it. When you're ready to attack, spread your army. 2 different squads, get it going. Against people who are dropping you, remember to put that drop defense key. Remember that. Number 6, get used to that. This is a mechanic which will make you a 50 times better Zerg vs Terran player in the long run. Not right now. It'll take a while before you get really good at that, but it'll kick in, man. So that should be awesome.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome, man. I love the list, by the way. So please keep writing down things that frustrate you, confuse you. And what's even more awesome as well is if you can take it to the next level, you can also be like, oh man, what the fuck do I do versus this? But you can also write, okay, this is what I think I should do. So one of the most important things is always to come up with a plan, right? Even if we're not sure if it's the right plan, try to come up with a plan and then maybe that changes. So maybe you'll write something down and then by the time we get to the coaching, you're like, oh, I'm actually doing something completely different because I realized that didn't work. I was doing this instead. That's awesome because that tells me a lot about how you're thinking and how you're problem solving. And if we can improve that, well beyond us doing coaching, you're going to keep improving as a player because you've got the right kind of mental patterns and mental processes in place.
Okay.
Awesome, man. All right.
Thank you.
No worries. Have a good night, man. Keep up the practice. And yeah, hopefully Diamond 1 in no time. Good luck, man.
Good luck. Thank you. Bye.
GG's.